Hey everybody, this is Office Hours for February 27th. And if you've never been to Office Hours before, this is just your chance to come and chat with me, ask me questions and things. I take questions from the Zoom call first, and then I go to the Discord, and then I'll check the chat after that. And we just go for about an hour. So maybe I should call it Office Hour. Yeah, let me share my screen here. We've got Scott already here in the Zoom. So how's it going, Scott? What can I help you with, Scott?
Hey, thanks, Kent. Yeah, I had a few questions just related to file uploads, and I think the portion of it I'm kind of working through now is when to make files, specifically images, for public viewing versus when to kind of require your app to like generate like pre-signed URLs and have an expiration date on or time span on when they can be viewed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to pick your brain a bit of like when you make those decisions on like when to kind of protect your files versus when to make them completely public and anyone can access them whenever.
Yeah. There are a lot of things to think about here. I'm assuming that you're mostly. Oh, I just realized. Hold on a second. Um, I have. Oh man, sorry, Jacob Paris. Jacob just commented on YouTube, and normally I have my the YouTube or whatever chats showing up at the bottom. But when
No
I've
worries.
got my Zoom video up here, then I switch to this other view, so I'm not on the screen twice. And in that other view, I don't have the chat on there. So sorry, Jacob. Yeah, so there are a couple of things to think about. In the Epic Stack, we actually, you might have noticed, we just added support for image uploads to Tigris, which is a S3 compatible object store. And the way that we do it there is we actually proxy all of the images through our own server. So you never actually see the Tigris URLs for any of the images. Everything is proxied. And the reason that we do that is because we want to optimize them for the viewer. And based on the browser that they're using and the image size and different things like that, sort of like a Cloudinary sort of situation there. And so the problem there is that it requires like our own server to be processing that and serving those images and things. And so some people are at a scale where that might be expensive, or they don't want to get to that scale. They just want to offload that to someone else. And that's exactly why services like Cloudinary exist. And so but even with Cloudinary, you still have the option of like having pre-signed URLs and stuff like that too. So, and making different images private for that reason. So that's like just kind of an aside. I wanted to mention that the Epic Stack does have like external storage for those kinds of images and even optimization. And the way that the Epic Stack does it now is you never see the actual URL for a given image. Though it occurs to me that we do show the object key in the URL for the image, so if you could figure out what the host or the bucket name, you could probably construct that yourself. But anyway, yeah. So the decision has a lot to do with the product requirements. So if you're in a situation where you want people to be able to share a image or like an object of any kind, but like an image, for example, just share the URL for the image for to their friends and family and stuff, then having a pre-signed URL that expires after a certain amount of time or something is not a good approach. Facebook is an example of one. Well, actually, maybe they changed this, but a long time ago, like you could just grab the URL. Like you might have a parent or somebody who's like, I want to make this image my desktop background. How do I do that? And so you just go and grab this URL for the image and you give it to them, and now they can download it or something. And so like there are use cases where it makes sense to just say, yeah, here's the actual URL. The other benefit to that is your server doesn't have to be involved at all with that. Like once they have that URL, then they're just talking to S3 or Tigris or wherever. And so like that is simpler on an implementation standpoint too. You can just literally, they upload the file, you grab the URL and you save the URL in the database. And now like you can even migrate to something else for future images, and you don't have to change any code. Like it can just stay there forever, and that's fine. The reason that you, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, quick question on that. So when you say store the URL, that would be, is that a proxied URL from like your server? So like let's say the Epic stack, it would be like something like resources slash like image name with like an object key, or
That's the way
specifically
we
like
are
a
doing it.
Tigris URL?
Yeah, so like if you were happy with having it just be totally public and like always available at that URL, then yeah, you could just store the full URL itself. In the Epic stack, we proxy everything, and so we just store the object key, and then we construct the URL to go and proxy things. So in the Epic stack now we have /resources/image, and then query string object key equals, and then the object key, and then we resolve that to the URL on Tigris. And that works fine. But like if you're fine, just my images are public. There's not like it's security implications. There's data privacy implications for sure. Like if a user uploads an image that they think is going to be private, and then they send that to that like page with that image people can take screenshots and stuff, but like maybe they don't want people to just be able to share those images everywhere. I would say. If your app is a social media app, then there's no reason to proxy those, or unless you want to do the optimizations and stuff. But there's not really a reason to hide those URLs if it's a social media app, because like everything's public anyway. But if it's a banking application or I don't know, like do you upload images to banking applications? Not really, but like maybe a health, like I'm taking a picture of my I don't know, my arm, and I don't want people to see that, then I would probably I would probably just proxy those through my own server, and then you can do all the checks that you want to on like whether they have access. There's like this sliver of use cases for it's totally public. Here's the full URL to my image host, and then the other end of the spectrum is I proxy everything, and like where I'm actually storing that is kind of irrelevant in that conversation. So there's this little sliver of use cases between those where, yes, it's public, and we've got like pre-signed URLs for accessing those images, but they expire or something like that. And I've never actually built anything that had that approach, but I know that sort of thing exists. Mm-hmm. And those use cases, like I suppose probably the most sensible reason you would do that is if you want to offload processing on your own server, and you don't want to handle proxying those images. There's probably a scale where you get to where that is like a notable concern. Maybe if you're you're building a photo album sort of thing for photographers or something, so there's just lots of images. But even in that, like your users probably want to be able to have fine-grained control over who has access to their images, and so like proxying their images is probably really important for supporting that use case where they say, no, I don't want them to have access to this anymore, and now they can't access the image at all. So I'm sure that the use cases exist, but I haven't had any of those. I pretty much am fine with proxying all the images, unless you get to a scale where that just isn't going to make sense. And you'll probably know when you get there. And the nice thing is that like if you go with the way that the Epic stack is built right now, you could move over to that sort of an architecture really like without too much trouble. Just store the object key, and then you can proxy the images. And then when you decide, you know what, I don't want to have to proxy this anymore, then you just change how you construct those URLs for those images to point to the host instead of to your own server, and deploy that and now you're done. Like there's no migration involved with that.
Okay.
So I would go with what the Epic stack is doing as the start, which is why the Epic stack is the way it is.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Does that help like clarify anything? I think I may have made it more confusing.
Yeah, no, it helped. It just helped like talking through it because I've like been researching a bit and I've never really had to deal with too much of like image processing stuff and worrying about like cost per image and things like that. But what I'm currently building, kind of like a newer territory for me. But it was really just good to talk through it and just like kind of hear your comments and definitely help solidify some of the stuff I've been looking at. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. What is it that you're building, if you don't mind me asking?
It's essentially like a gift registry app, but it's focused around kids. And the one thing like each user will be doing is they could potentially upload their own like products that they want on their registry. So they could be uploading image for that. But also it'll generate kind of just like kind of like a about my kid page and like why some of these gifts might be important and like with their milestones coming up. Like for example, we just had one for my daughter. And we put things on it like a softball glove because she's doing softball in the spring, new soccer cleats and stuff like that. So it'll kind of talk about like like what she has coming up and gives a little bit of a story behind the gifts, not just giving the gifts for to the child, but kind of explaining like why they might be useful and things like that.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. I like that.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, I guess people take pictures themselves and they can upload like their own photos and stuff. So privacy is a concern there, right?
It is, but like they'll be sharing the registry to friends and family. So, potentially down the line on like a more maybe like a paid tier, I might have an option to be completely private. But overall, like it will be shared amongst friends and family. So it is kind of if you have the public link, like I don't know how important that's going to be down the road.
Yeah,
It could
especially
be
since
user
people can
requests.
just take screenshots or even literally take a photo of their screen. And so, like, at some point, being able to make an image totally private. No, like, nothing's private when it's on the internet like that. So, yeah, the primary benefit of proxying the images is for optimizing image load performance. And so I would be surprised if you, not to say that you're not going to be super successful. I'm sure it's going to be an awesome app and everybody will use it. But I would be surprised if you hit a scale where the fact that you're processing images is going to be a real problem for you. And if you got to that point, then you can have the conversation about like, okay, so how do we deal with this problem?
Yeah.
So, but even like people on the other side of the spectrum could say, yeah, but that also means that it's not to the scale where you need to worry about optimizing images either. And so I can appreciate that as well. Though, like there's, to me, I see like reducing the amount of bytes I send to the user as part of the user experience. And even if you only have a few users, you want to make their experience as good as possible. And so like taking the Epic stack and slashing everything, I don't remember what it was, but like 80% of the payload or something just disappeared when we optimized the images, like something really big. And so I see that as like quite a win for user experience at a pretty minimal cost of proxying the images. So
Yeah.
and then that comes with the benefit of being able to do fine-grained control on who gets access to what images if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Did you have any other questions?
No, I think that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull up the Discord over here, and we'll see where we're at with, am I looking? Oh, I'm in general. Okay. If we go to office hours, there we go. Right here. Oh, this is you. Hey, Scott. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So we got that. Was this? Oh, this is a different question, right? Is this a?
Yeah, it's kind of related. I think I kind of answered my own stuff with that eventually at this point in time. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think I got all these. I need to answer this one, so I'm going to open that up, but I'm going to answer that here in a second. So I have said your name before, but I cannot recall. Oh, Jacob just commented on YouTube. If you resize images to web size instead of 3,000 pixels wide, then it's hard to get into too much trouble with bandwidth. Yeah. That is true. Yeah, and in fact, like CPU, especially if you're running on a long-running server, you're already paying for all that CPU. So if you're not using 100% of it, then like that's money out the door anyway. And so like that's actually one of the primary reasons lots of people say serverless is so great is because you only pay for what you use. And like, yes, that's true. There's a lot of nuance to that, and serverless is not always going to be cheaper than having a long-running server. But anyway, you probably have some extra CPU cycles that you could use on image processing, and that will reduce your bandwidth cost. Which, unless, I think Cloudflare doesn't charge bandwidth, but everywhere else does. So, yeah. Anyway, and Cloudflare actually does have an optimization service, like for image optimization, and they do not charge egress on that, which bandwidth out. So. That's an interesting one to look into for sure. Okay, 2 questions from Leon. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. And I'm going to say answering this now. And actually, I should probably grab a link for image optimization here. Where's the Discord? Okay, so I'm a front-ender for some years of experience. And since I've started, the responsibilities for front-end dev have increased. Yeah, that's happened for me too. There are the core skills of HTML styling, be it CSS, SCSS, or Tailwind, etc., and JavaScript or TypeScript framework, Next.js, backend stuff in Next.js. I work a lot with CMSs, and that's a skill to set up. On top of that, we add testing, version control, deploy pipelines. If a front end does not live in a vacuum. So we also have to know about SEO, marketing, tracking, UX, design, which one also has to gain a knowledge about. On top of that, accessibility, which I'm sure you would have mentioned if you thought about that too. Here, I'm going to actually switch this over to here. When considering this, do you think that the title front-end developer is still accurate? I feel like it's calling a garden architect for a gardener. I'm guessing you might have some feeling regarding this since your course is called Epic Web and not Epic Frontend. Thank you for time and thoughts. Well, so yes, I think that like in my experience, this role has increased quite a lot on what's expected of us from what it used to be. There are definitely still developers who are primarily doing developer things. Like it depends on the size of your company. The smaller your company, the more you will do. The larger your company, you might still do a lot, but typically, in my experience, you specialize a lot more at larger companies. Honestly, it depends a lot because like some large companies have a single product and they just have a lot of specialists, and other large companies have many products and many teams. Each team does a lot for each one of those. So like lots of this is going to depend on a lot of factors. But in my experience, yeah, typically I think front-enders are covering a lot more than we used to, especially with modern frameworks that the JavaScript frameworks, at least, that are running both on the server and client. Even like non-JavaScript frameworks like Laravel require back-end and front-end knowledge as well. So, yeah, I like, there was something else. Oh, there's also like, consider the things that you don't typically do if you're a standard like front-end developer. There's the CRUD stuff that a front-end developer can handle on the back end. And that's not really, oh man, what the heck happened to this? I'm not building React Router workshop series. Gosh, dang it. So I started this live stream and there was a problem with it. And so I restarted it, but now this is saying we're doing the wrong thing. What is the title of this video? Yeah, it's wrong. Oh man. Sorry, I'm going to just fix this really quick. KCD Office Hours 2025-02-27. And I'm also updated this, but it did not work. Okay, save that. Sorry, just got distracted really quick. Yeah, so like think about people. Most of the stuff that I'm doing on my back end is either talking to a database for typical CRUD stuff, or I'm talking to a third party for stuff that I don't want to do, like sending emails or sending text messages or integrating with some like Internet of Things thing or whatever. And so there are those services, I would say, are a lot more like the back end stuff that they're doing involves a lot of stuff that a typical front end developer would not be doing at all. So I do think that there's still a line there between what makes a front end developer and what makes a back end developer. And maybe what makes a front end developer, we're just kind of taking over a lot more of the CRUD related stuff than we used to. And that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure. Like even back in the day, testing, version control, deploy pipelines, those were like things that front-end developers had to do. We have recently had to get into more of the back-end stuff in Next.js. But I don't think that we've expanded so much. Like we are, at least I am doing a lot more stuff directly with databases and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, like it expanded a little bit for myself. But I don't know that it, like, I think that there were plenty of front-end developers even over a decade ago who were doing lots of that stuff too. So it's hard to say whether it has expanded. But I think front-end developer does communicate the fact that this developer works on the front end. And then back-end developer communicates this developer works on the back end. I really consider myself a full stack developer, and that's what Epic Web is all about, is getting people to be to have the skills necessary to be full stack developers. But there are parts of the stack that I don't really touch, not because I am not able to, but because I just don't have the use cases for, or I would rather offload that to a service or something. I do think that the titles are helpful, and I do think that there are some developers who are just front-end developers and some developers who are just back-end. Sounds to me, Leon, like you are a full-stack developer, not a front-end developer. And I don't think that it's because the terms changed. I think it's because your skills have expanded. So, cool. Thank you for that question. Great question. We've got, just this one left that I really want to get to. That was 3 weeks ago this was posted. And I was like, you know what? This is a really long question. I want to get to it in office hours. And now I'm going to finally do that. So I'm answering this right now on office hours. Okay. So let's see what this is all about. The intro of this exercise let's look at suspense, React suspense. We'll pull up this so we're all looking at the same thing. Here we are. And I'm running this somewhere else, and we've got an update, so let's just handle that update really quick. We need to fix that. Okay, and close this guy. I'm also gonna, where'd my other editor go? Oh, there we are. Stop that. Okay, there we go. And Cursor has yet another update. I cannot believe it. They are shipping like crazy, and it's quite a lot. Yeah, okay, let's look into this. So we're looking at exercise 6. Okay, exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Optimizations. Cannot reproduce the issue in React 19. This is very possible, especially optimizations. In fact, I think I answered this in another office hours at some point. Let's just see, because that will be additional useful context. It was probably in here. Suspense. No? Oh, wait, it would be in Epic React. Here we go. In the suspense workshop. Here it is. Oh, this is very old. Yeah. Wait, what? Oh, okay. No, that's something else. Yeah, that's another one. I thought that I did answer this one. It could have been in an office hours before, though. Okay, yep, that's something else. Okay, and we'll just come back here. So the intro of the exercise explains the problem of requesting resources, namely waterfall. So here we talk about we have a request, then we get the response, and then we start this request and get this response, then we start this one. Very common problem in SPA applications. You want to, like, as long as they're not dependent on one another, you should just have them all make those requests all at once. Okay, then proceeds to explain the existing behavior that we could easily create a waterfall situation, how to potentially fix or work around the problem. The problem is that the behavior that is explained in the video is not present in React 19, which is the most stable release since last December. And it is what we're running in here as well. If we look at our package.json React, we're running React 19. Do they have a patch release? Just curious. This is actually really impressive that the React team managed to publish a major version 3 months ago, and they haven't needed to publish a patch release. That's just amazing. And this major release introduced a new improvement, pre-warm. They call it pre-warm? Oh, yeah. In React 19, when a component suspends, React will immediately commit the fallback of the nearest suspense boundary without waiting for the entire sibling tree to render. After fallback commits, React schedules another render for the suspended sibling to pre-warm lazy requests of the tree. So this is previously, when a component suspended, the suspended siblings were rendered and then the fallback was committed. In React 19, when a component suspends, the fallback is committed and then the suspended siblings are rendered. So suspend, and then we render this, and then that. What does this represent? Does this represent the fallback? This change means suspense fallbacks display faster. So warming lazy requests in this suspense tree. This is a confusing graphic to me, but yeah, basically it's, if I understand this correctly, yeah, it schedules another render for the suspended sibling. So like you got this one component, and then it renders a child, or let's say it renders 2 children. Both of these children are going to suspend. Before, it would render this child first, that suspends, and so it shows the suspense boundary. And then that suspending child finishes, so it renders, and then it gets to this one. It's like, oh, that's already, or that also needs to suspend, so let's show the suspense boundary again. Now it'll hit this one, it'll suspend, it'll display the suspense boundary, but then it will also go and start rendering this one while that suspense boundary is being shown, just in case it's going to suspend as well, so that it can warm it up. And this was actually a pretty big change. This held up the React 19 release for quite a while they worked this out, which I think is cool. I don't want to risk misunderstanding. Already hard to explain behavior. Yeah, it doesn't help at all. Like this graphic is a little confusing. So like, honestly, this looks like the opposite. So maybe I'm misunderstanding something. But anyway, yeah, this is a loading skeleton. Yeah, so like if I were to redo this graphic, I would say, like, with the behavior it has now, I would say, oh, this suspends, so like this graphic is fine. Then I would like shift this up, be like, this is what's displayed to the user, and then move this over and say, this is what's happening in the background. And like this should also have the suspense, like bing, sort of like a view around here, so we can see these things are happening at the same time. The way it looks now is it says, oh, that suspends, let's show the fallback. And then when that suspense thing finishes, now we're going to render this one. That's like the old behavior, and that's why this graphic is very confusing to me. Anyway, I think we all understand each other, hopefully. From what I know, there have been some back and forth implementations and improvements in this behavior in React 18. It was one behavior that React release candidate 0 was another one. Yep, and exactly, like that's what held up the release for so long. Yeah. Oh, hey, look, there's the graphic. Yeah, I'm still kind of confused by that graphic, but okay. It is a good-looking graphic, though, that's for sure. Because of the new behavior in suspense, if I start exercise 0601 problem in the playground without fixing or editing, the behavior is already correct. There's no waterfall request. The app makes get ship. Okay, let's... Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay, good. So let's do that ourselves here. So start learning. We're going to set the playground. And let's pop this open in a separate tab so we can observe the network. So let me... Ship details has to wait for the ship data before rendering the ship image. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is true. So what I need to do is add a note here that says React 19 fix this behavior. Feel free to skip this exercise if you don't care about this. You should still know about waterfalls though. So I don't want people to like skip learning about how waterfalls work. But yeah, if we click this, then we're getting both the ship and the image. Whereas before, I'm pretty sure I can show that.
How things work, if we go to one of these, then we're loading
we get the data, and then we get the image. Here, actually, it's probably better to have it on throttling so we can make sure that this is what's happening. So data and image happening at the same time. So yeah, that. Thank you for bringing that up. I will make that fix right now, and once I finish your question. To quickly see the difference, here's some examples. Fork the project. Yeah, hey, that's cool. On React 19. Okay. Immediately after committing the fallback, preform, which eventually will cause another suspense after waiting 3,000 milliseconds on React 19. The beta, which is what I recorded the videos with, was the beta. Then you can see that it's going to take a lot longer. Yeah. Behavior is exactly the same. Yep. Okay, so here's what we're going to do then is we're going to come over here. If you hold down Option, then instead of editing this page on GitHub, it will actually open it locally. Just a little epic instructor tip for you. We're going to do a call out. Warning. No, that's not what I want to say. And maybe we'll put that right here. This behavior was fixed in React 19 when it was released. The video was recorded with a beta version that did it, of React 19. Yeah, let's word this differently. Okay, the video was recorded a beta version of React 19, and this the behavior you see, the video was fixed when in the final release of React 19. Feel free to skip this step if you'd like. But yeah, that's fine. Okay, I think like you can skip it, but still there's not a whole lot you have to do to make it work, and it's not entirely a bad thing to learn how to deal with waterfalls and stuff. I believe the next step is still a problem though. Yeah, so well, there's not a whole lot to the next step either. I was holding down Option. We just added cache control, and that still is applicable. So the other thing, I think I will add this same call out to here. And actually, you know what? Let's add learn more from this. number 98. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. And then we're going to do a similar call out on the README here. The problem of waterfalls is something we need to consider as web developers. However, the specific example we use in this exercise was fixed by React 19 itself. Yeah, I recommend you still go through this exercise to learn more about how waterfalls work, but yeah, there we go. Okay, and then actually I want to write one more thing about this. What was I going to say? Oh, shoot. Shoot. I lost it. Oh, man. Yeah, I guess another thing I thought of was we'll get into waterfalls more in the React server components workshop as well. Server, what is it? Yeah, server components.epicreact.dev. There we go. But that wasn't what I was thinking about saying, and now I can't remember what I was thinking about saying. Okay. And I want to put a period on that as well, because still do proper English grammar, whatever, punctuation. Okay, good. Thank you for the question. Get commit, add note about optimization React did for us. Closes number 98, right? 98, yeah. So maybe this is what I wanted to say. One problem is if we have a parent component that renders two siblings that suspend, this fix that they did will make that happen all at once. But if you have a parent component that has a child that suspends and that one has a child that suspends, now you're still going to have the waterfall problem and you should hoist things up. But we do talk about that in the React Server Components workshop. And so, yeah, waterfalls are a tricky business, and it's nice that they kind of solved it for sibling component trees, but it's not just totally solved. You still need to know. Oh, what's up, Nate? How's it going? Okay, so I think that is, yeah, I think that's everything. Nobody else has joined the Zoom call. I'm not seeing any other questions in here. Let's take a look at this. Yep, okay, we talked about that. That's good. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna close this down, and I'll probably be streaming in a little bit. Yeah, pretty soon. Got to work on the Gratatext app that we're going to be using for the React Server or the React Router series of workshops, which is going to be sweet. So anyway, thanks everybody. See ya.